Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 8 of my new HO scale layout. I've done a lot, so I want to make sure I get one more video in before I continue. So I'm going to get right to it. Most of the progress has been done in this general area, that's why I'm focusing on this. Starting with the benchwork that I'm starting to build under the spline. So I don't know if you remember, but this spline was basically floating and being held up by just, stands and things like that. Because I wanted to get kind of the shape of it, and I wanted to know what the grade was going to be and all that before I committed to any bench work. So now that I know exactly where it's going to be, I can build the bench work around it. The other benefit to that is that I didn't have to make like a grid sort of thing. So the way I'm approaching the bench work is kind of like I'm following the shape of the spline to create a big pocket in the middle so that I can work from the inside out and have space in there. So I love the way it's coming out because I was able to build these 45-degree angle support legs outward, but still not far enough where you're going to trip because the scenery is going to come out further. So the weight of the scenery and everything is actually going to lean on those legs, which I think will work out great. So the purpose of these legs are many. There's actually about 4 reasons why I made these legs. The first one is obviously to support the staging platform here, which is the loop that allows me to get to the other side of staging, and it's also acting as a return loop for the bottom level. So staging comes from the bottom here, 4 tracks. They go through here, around, and then back on the other side of the wall before they make their way out and up. The other purpose of the legs is to hold up the spline, the homoso spline that I had already built. And if you remember from previous videos, it was just kind of floating, and I was supporting it with just camera stands and speaker stands and things like that. But now obviously I've been able to put supports using the same legs that I built for that. So I've been using 1x4s so that I can have a nice wide mounting platform, so I can put 2 screws nice and far apart. This way, the torque is stronger. Not the torque, the support is stronger. Sometimes when you use very thin wood, you can't get the screws far enough, and they tend to dip a little bit. So the wider they are, the more structurally sound they're going to be and strong. So the other thing I did is I tried to space these at about 1 foot apart. And obviously when they flare out, it's going to be more like 14 inches. But the idea is to not have a very large section between each support. Not that it's going to sag, but just in case. So I wanted to make it nice and sturdy. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that it's also acting as a way to mount my helix platform, which is what I'm working on today. I did most of the platform today. Because what I want to do, instead of making a railroad that just continues to climb and climb and climb through these inclines to get to each level, what I want to do is have a second level that's completely flat, so I can have industries and not worry about cars rolling backwards or anything like that. So by having a helix, I can achieve that. This is different. This I do want to model, which is going to be representing Belden Hill into Belden Tunnel, which is that famous, hill near Binghamton. So the tunnel is obviously going to be under the staircase here. And then the helix will take me from the second level. So in other words, this climbs up to the second level, then it flattens out. It goes around the entire basement. And when it returns here, it goes into the helix platform. So I got to raise this a little bit more because it's going to come in at 20 inches about. So right now it's just kind of just sitting there because I didn't have time to screw it in. So I got to just raise this a little bit. And it's being supported by these speaker stands. So, it's just to kind of visualize everything. But anyways, the point I'm trying to get to is that these legs are also going to support this platform. So the whole thing's going to come up and it's going to come back a little bit over these, so that I can get it away from this side here, because as you can see, this corner is very close to that, and I want to be able to model a less aggressive mountain here. So I don't want it to be like, you know, like straight up like that. It's just, I think it looks silly unless I have to, you know. But I do have room to kind of tuck it in more, and since that's a tunnel anyway, it's not going to affect the shape of the mountain. But my plan is to make it not so steep, and then as it gets closer to there, make it more steep. So over here, it's okay if I have like more of like a rock face or whatever it is, before it goes into the tunnel. So anyways, the idea is that when I raise this over or near these, I'm going to make some kind of bracing that will connect from the bottom. So that will be the other thing that's holding all that together, and the other purpose of the wood. One thing I did to kind of keep everything aligned and in the right place is that I installed these cross beams, one on the bottom and then one on top and then one on the bottom. So I did like every other, so I would get a nice stiff. See here the top ones, and I could always add more, but right now that's plenty. To kind of hold it in place. Plus, once I tie all this in, it's all going to be firm. And the one last thing I did to make sure everything was secure is that I tied it into the wall with these cleats. So that center beam is attached to the wall there and at the bottom there. So there's no way that it can go this way. As far as movement this way, I think it'll get its rigidity from all this that's happening up here. That's going to be tied into that wall also. And I might even support it with the bottom of the staircase, so that the lateral movement is also nice and sturdy. So yeah, that's basically all the purposes that the other thing that it does is that it creates another platform here, so I can connect another 1x4 or whatever I'm going to use to extend the scenery. Because the fascia is going to be like around here somewhere, and it's going to follow around. I might even take it to the pole. I got to see how far I want to go out, but that seems a little extreme. So I might just go out to here or so. And I guess if you're skinny enough, you could slide through there. But there's another way to get here. I hate this pole, by the way. Take it exactly where it shouldn't be, but I can't take it out because my house will fall down. So we don't want that. So that's the last thing about that. This platform, it's a little bulky right now. I might simplify it a little bit, but it's actually an octagon. So what I did is I built it on the floor, and then so I built a panel like this, and then the same one on the other side, and then just two rectangles on either side, leaving a hole in the middle so I can get through and work on the mountain or whatever. So basically what I'm going to do is, what I did is I took it apart and I left this one here so I can kind of gauge, how wide it's actually going to be. And once I'm happy with the frame where it's, supposed to be located, I can put the panels back in. The one thing I have to be careful though with is this, because this angle obviously is closing in as you get higher. So I have to be careful not to go too far back, because I might not have enough clearance to get to that third level where I want it. So if I want to like up here somewhere, it might, the train might crash into that corner there. I gotta see. Right now the helix, which is over here, I already started it. So I cut a bunch of sections using a technique that I learned. And I think I actually posted a video on my channel about how to cut those. And then I just basically tied them in using, like plywood on the bottom, like that. And, I went wide so that I can have a lot of surface area here to connect so it doesn't, want to bend. And then I'm using 1x4s to get my 4-inch clearance that I'm basically creating enough clearance for like, stacking, running like, higher type cars, even though I'm not going to be running container cars or like auto racks or anything like that. So, I mean, I guess theoretically I could always go a little lower if I need to, if it's too steep of a grade. But the radius right now is 28. I couldn't go any smaller than 28 because, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to start pulling the couplers too hard and it's going to derail. But 28 I think should be fine for a helix. And if I need to go 30 or a little bigger than 28, I could always run the track a little bit further out and work out a system to tie in the sides instead of like putting the blocks in here like this. I could do something like that. But I'll figure out, you know, once I start building the track, I'm going to test that first loop. The problem is that everything is like, you know, you can't do one thing without the other. So the problem is that I can't test this before I have a platform to test it on because I need to lay the track, but I can't lay the track in the entire loop because then I can't work once it overhangs like that. So I actually left it disconnected so I can start my track work, you know, place it correctly and then work up to there and then throw it up on top of here, test it, and then keep going, one more loop, put the track in, and then I don't know how many loops I'm gonna need. I don't think I'll need a lot because it's not going very high. It's going from here to about, I would say, yeah, about here. So, you know, it's gonna be, the third level is gonna be very small. It's just gonna be like almost like just middle of nowhere kind of scenery, like just trees and a photo backdrop, and it's just gonna, you know, just to create more distance and just to make the layout last longer, like each run lasts longer. But no major scenery. I might open it up a little bit here and there, like where there's room, but generally speaking, I don't want it to be like a big, you know, a big blocky type high platform. What else? Okay, so yeah, so these are the panels for the platform that I just took off, and I have to reattach them. But as you can see here, you know, the helix is going to be running through here. I got to be careful with this. So I don't know how high I can go before I actually start hitting that. I guess I'll have to play with it until I feel it's the right height. And the nice thing is that I could always, you know, I could always move it. I'm not going to like tie it down to a point where I can't move it at all. You know, I'm going to leave myself some room for error, and then I can adjust as I go. One thing I'm running into, it's a little bit problematic, but I think I have a solution, is that I got to be able to get in there, and the staging is going to be continuous, so I can't open. There's no like gate or anything. I guess I could make a gate, but I don't want to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is get one of those like car mechanic creepers. There's like beds with wheels, and just keep it in there. And when I need to get in there, I'll just pull it out, get myself on there, roll in, and then I can stand up. So I think that's the best way, which means that I have to leave myself enough distance here to get myself in there. So what I might have to do is, you know, I still have to add a few more legs here, but then leave like this gap open like that, you know, and just try to support it from either side so that I can slide in there. You know, I don't think that's going to create a huge problem, even if it's just one section that's a little bit big. I might have to put like a piece of plywood or something under there to keep it from like sagging. And again, this has been basically floating. Like huge sections have been just sitting there floating, and nothing has dipped or bent or anything like that. This stuff is really strong once you put it together in a spline. So that's all I've been doing. And the only other thing I did was I added cork roadbed on top. And I know I don't have to. You know, you could just run it on the homosode, but I like it because it gives you the shape. And if there's any imperfections, you know, since the homosode is like a bunch of strips put together, if there's any one that's like a little bit high or a little low, you know, it's better to just have the cork to flatten everything out, and then I'll sand it. And this way that I can put a nice flat track on the flat surface. So yeah, so I did my cork roadbed on one side. This is going to be siding here, so it's going around. I did all of this. And then over here, I kind of calculated this a little bit weird. because the main line was going to be here originally, and this was going to be the siding. But I kind of like it where the main line's on the outside and the siding comes in, because the siding is also going to have an industry spur there, even though it's still like it has to use the main anyway. But I see it more as like, you know, that should be part of the siding instead of the main line. That's just me. So over here, what I did is I made a little cork here so that I can kind of pull it in. It's going to be inside a tunnel anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's a little drastic. And then get into, you know, the rest of the cork, which goes all the way around to about there. So, you know, obviously I got to finish that off. And then I do want to test that incline to see if I could actually climb. It should be 2% according to my calculation all the way through, which is plenty good for what I'm trying to run here. So we should be in good shape. What else? I think that's it. The only thing, I did change the staging platform here. I took it out actually completely, because what I decided to do was run everything a little lower on the staging, down to 12 inches. So I'm working right now on, see, I put a new cleat here. I'm working on just getting the homosew spline down. I am going to split it with a switcher, so I have two lines. One's going in, one's going out. And then I'm going to make the turn just with those two tracks. And by the time I get here, I should be low enough to then run my, you know, split it into the 4 and 4. And, you know, they'll take their shape around the wall here. So I think that's it. Okay, so I guess in the next one, I'll hopefully have this almost done. And I'll be on my way to the second level and third level. All right, until next time.